Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm Steve Glenn.
I'm Paul Glenn.
This week, we get to talk about the 4 reasons, Paul, why I think we're going to see a slowdown the second half of 2024 in the travel industry.
In airfare.
In airfare primarily. It's going to hit the hotels too, but I've got some things I've observed in the newspapers. Does anybody read newspapers anymore?
I don't have access. You
Okay.
keep sending me articles, and I click on them, and then it wants a password.
Okay, so once a password. We're going to share you the reasons why I think we're going to see a slowdown. Every week we do this Weekly Travel Alert podcast. We also do 100,000 weekly travel alerts we send out emails to. You can get that by going to executivetravel.com and sign up at the bottom of the homepage. And Paul, you also send out something on Fridays.
Yeah, Travel Week in Review, which I just kind of monitor during the week, see what news articles come out that might be of interest to our clients and travelers. And so we compile those top news stories and get those sent out as well.
Well, here we go. Here's headline number 1. Here are the 4 major reasons why I think that the slowdown in air travel has officially begun. Number 1, airlines are furloughing pilots. We just had a regional airline last week announce they're going to furlough pilots. Well, you don't furlough pilots if you're growing.
If you're full, and if you have excess capacity that you're trying to fill. So
yeah, and in the last 12 months, these airlines have tried to hire anybody from the janitor on up.
They have. It's been a real struggle throughout the whole industry, especially, you get, you're talking here about regional jets. Well, you come in to work for a regional jet company because you want to get up to the mainline carriers. That's where you can actually make a good paycheck. But, I know through a friend that over the last couple years, even the regional jet companies, they've increased compensation by over 100% in order to attract pilots. Well, Now they've got the pilots that they want, but they don't have enough planes and they don't have enough lift to be able to keep these guys full. So this actually, it won't necessarily be a benefit to most of our clients. But as we look at what the challenges have been across the air industry as a whole, and when you look at private jets and things like that, this will be something that'll be nice for those that have been struggling, as many industries have with finding personnel over the last couple of years.
That's reason number 1 why I think we're going to see a slowdown. Reason number 2, airfares to Europe this summer have been 50% less than they were a year ago. It was $2,000 plus to travel coach class to Europe last summer. This time of year, we're actually seeing $1,000 fares.
Or less, yes.
Yeah, and we've also seen business class, some really cool windows where you can see that $900,000 go down to $3,000 or $4,000. So that's been
$9,000 to $3,000 or $4,000. So so you've seen some significant decreases there. But yeah, it's one of those. I think we are seeing a lot where good deals. However, some of those you kind of have to wait until last minute.
Yes, you do.
The airlines, as I've been watching some flights for later this fall, and they are still $9,000 for those business class seats. So you got to be patient and you got to be smart. And so you kind of have to approach things. We brainstormed over the weekend regarding, do we want to lock something in? So buy that refundable fare with the hopes that it comes down and we can refund the original one we purchased. And hopefully we can get to that $3,500 business class ticket. But because we don't want to get to the point where all of a sudden, what we pass on, a $5,000 ticket right now, all of a sudden that becomes an $8,000 ticket and we have regret that we didn't lock something in.
That's a good secret sauce right there. Number 3 on this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert of why I think the travel industry is going to slow down the second half of 2024 reads, airfare sales every 2 weeks. Paul, Southwest Airlines, we also have Alaska Airlines. Every week or two it pops into my email. Another sale, a $59 sale, a $59 sale. You don't need a sale if all your planes are full, okay? Just another reason that I sense there's some kind of weakening going on in the industry. And number 4, airline stocks are dropping like a rock. A week ago, Delta Airlines says, oops, our profits aren't very good. And we didn't have the prices we want, nor did we fill all the seats we wanted. So their profits went way down. And they're the bellwether of the whole industry. So what happens with Delta, they're the leader. The others, such as United and American for sure, and Southwest, basically that caused the whole industry to drop like 20% because their stocks are saying it's not going to be a good fall.
Well, and they've had a lot of pressures on them as far as some of their labor negotiations. They've given pilots significant increases. American Airlines, I think, has their flight attendants compensation coming up or contracts coming up. So a lot of different things there. But, I think historically, as we look back, a lot of times when you get to this third quarter of an election year, there's a lot of uncertainty, and we're facing, just extremes regarding what the political and economics regarding this political cycle are going to entail.
I have a friend who said he didn't want to travel this fall because of the election, was worried about
fear. There's an odd feeling, and especially in current events.
Hey, our next headline in this week's Weekly Traveler reads, International travelers are staying away from the Olympics in Paris. Paul, every Olympics it happens. Expensive. People say, the heck with it. I'm not going to travel there. I checked a week ago. I wanted to go the last week in July, stayed for about 11 days. I found $1,000 airfare direct to Paris. People aren't going to Paris for the Olympics. Just the locals are. It's going to be full venue, but it's just mostly locals, not the international. Delta even announced that. They're going to lose $100 million because people aren't going to the Paris Olympics.
And you said you looked at actual tickets to the events, and there was still
business class, $3,500 round trip.
No, I mean
Paris.
To the Olympic events. You said there was still pretty good availability for a lot of the events.
I could get to basketball games, which Ryan always wants me to check basketball. He thinks he's a basketball player.
But then you also said hotels you could get in Paris for $250.
$250.
So, if you're looking at that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, this might be a good year to do it.
I think more and more people are going to look at last-minute travel. Paul, you mentioned that earlier. But so much, the prices are really high. And then as they get toward the event, they start to say, hey, maybe we should, if we lower them, we could fill those empty seats.
Well, that goes back to what we just hit on with the airlines and some of their stock prices and other challenges. So, I think they're wanting to figure out how they can fill everything. And if they're not full, then they're going to do some discounting.
Hey, the next headline in this week's Weekly Travel Alert, provided to you by Executive Travel. Easy for me to say, Paul.
Yeah.
Provided to you.
It's one of those mornings.
Executive Travel. How many years have we been at it? 38
Almost
years.
38 years.
38 years in the saddle. We're having fun. We get to do what nobody else gets to do, which is talk travel. And we're thankful to you for listening to us. It reads, get ready for the big time new green travel requirements. Paul, we've got all these travel requirements. Lufthansa Group, which represents the German airlines, Swiss, Austrian, and Brussels Airlines, is going to put a surcharge starting the first of the year up to $77 for flights leaving the European Union. And it depends on its coach, business, or first, what you're going to pay. But they're saying, hey, the government's giving us all these rules and regulations that cost millions, if not billions of dollars. We're going to push that off and make the consumer pay it.
Yeah, we've seen this coming, I think. I think Europe has been kind of the driver of a lot of these green initiatives. They've been a hot topic over here in the States for probably the last 5-6 years maybe. But Europe tends to force things in. And so in many ways, we see Lufthansa be the first player into what's going on that are going to be changes in kind of the economic environment in travel. And that's just what we're seeing here. So I don't think we'll see it in the near future here domestically, but I do think it's something that we need to expect to be on the horizon.
Hey, Executive Travel tries to also be a leader in the environmental movement. People may not realize that if you go to executivetravel.com, Paul, and you click on a little button on the right-hand side that says ET Green, you're going to see a little video about how Executive Travel plants a tree for every airline ticket we sell.
And we've been doing that. I think we're
hundreds of thousands
of trees at this point.
And we're going to shoot for 1 million trees. They're all planted around the counties of Nebraska. And so we're proud to try to take and mitigate just some of our carbon that comes from flying around this world.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Hey, the next item on our list of the Weekly Traveler reads, it looks like cities and islands all over the world want to start limiting cruise ship. So I'm going to give you a list, Paul, of all the things happening around the world because there's just been so much over-tourism. In Venice, Italy, they banned large cruise ships from the canal and docking at those piers, and now they have to to dock miles and miles away. It was just overwhelming Venice. And we're going to see that in other cities. Number 2, Santorini and Mykonos, Greece. They're going to restrict the number of cruise ships daily. So now you go to Mykonos and you might have 10 ships. And that Mykonos is a little island.
Yeah.
And, they have so many bars and restaurants and cool shops, but it's like salmon swimming on the streets in Mykonos. Juneau, Alaska, which I'm going to be heading for in a couple of weeks, they got a kind of a cool thing. They've got a citizens initiative that aims to restrict cruise ships on Saturdays entirely. So I think this is kind of cool. So if I'm a local and I'm in Juneau, I'm going to say, hey, I get my weekend back. I can enjoy Juneau without all this cruise ship guests. So I kind of like that one.
I kind of like a lot of these, and I think there's some people that won't like them, but I think there's great opportunity that comes with these.
You bet. Skagway, Alaska, they're looking at capping the number of cruise ships. Amsterdam, in 2026, they're reducing the number of cruise ships to allow to almost 50%. And that you can't dock at the city center. Didn't you go out of?
Well, we flew into Amsterdam, but we cruised out of Rotterdam, which is about an hour away. And I think when you look at Venice and Amsterdam and Santorini and Mykonos, and I think when you have a big cruise ship there, it takes away from some of the feel and the culture of what those communities entail. So I like I said, I'm not necessarily against these. The cruise lines are going to give you tour options to get you to the city center and anywhere you want to get to. So this is just adding a little bit of a distance from what that is. But I think that might make it so that your experience could be even greater, being able to get that local feel of those destinations. And I was surprised. We went on that Holland America cruise. I want to say the average age was mid to late 60s, maybe 70s.
Oh, my gosh.
There are a lot of people that don't get off.
Yeah.
So, why have all these people? Why be docking city center if you got some people, all they're there is to enjoy the cruise ship. So
hey, you bet. Hey, our last list of places that are going to do some active things with the cruise ships is Barcelona, Spain. They prevented the docking in the central World Trade Center pier, and they're moving those out of town, 10 miles away. So they're trying to that was always so cool to go into Barcelona and then get on the cruise ship right there, the World Trade Center pier, and then go for cruises from there. But that's not going to happen in the future. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. The other thing you brought up on our radio show was this is going to now allow cruise ships to hit secondary and tertiary cities, which I like.
Yeah.
I like those cities that are not the biggies, but they're the places the tourists don't go.
And I'm not a knick-knack guy, so I don't need the shop. But you go to these big ports, and you get on their main drag, and all it is souvenir shops.
That's China.
That's not the cultural experience.
Yeah.
So, I think this is great. When we did Norway, and there aren't a lot of cruise ships that do Norway, especially not regularly. So a handful of the ports we went to, they may get a ship in 5-10 times during the whole summer season.
Yeah, they can.
And so they don't have the big souvenir shops.
Yeah.
So they don't have a ton because you're mingling in their daily lives.
Yeah.
And so you're eating at their cafes and it's full, and so maybe not always the most convenient. But we were getting to see the local culture and talk to the local people and have a positive impact on them, because that's a lot of money that comes in those 10 times.
Hey, Paul and his wife Becky and their family went on a Norway cruise, and so Facebook post day 1, water, mountains. Facebook day 2, water and mountains. Guess what was Facebook day 3 there, Ryan? It was water and mountains. So I don't know. I can only take so much.
Day 12 was a waterfall.
Hey, we had a lot of fun today. Thank you for watching our weekly travel alert, our podcast that we have every week. This is Executive Travel. We just feel blessed that we can share what we think is the best jobs in the world, Paul, for 38 straight years. And we hope now you'll do the bing, bong, ding.
Please like, subscribe, share, and add any comments or feedbacks on topics that are of interest for future episodes. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.